My name is Sophia. I was 34 years old when a stranger sat across from me in a quiet cafe in River North, Chicago, and told me something that stopped my life mid-breath. It was early afternoon, the kind of time when the city feels half awake. The cafe smelled like burnt coffee and damp coats, the aftermath of rain clinging to everyone who walked in. Office workers murmured over laptops. A barista argued quietly with a broken machine. Nothing about the moment looked dramatic, but my chest felt tight, like the air had shifted without warning. The man introduced himself as David Reed. He spoke calmly, not rushed, not emotional. He didn't fidget or glance around the room. His posture was careful, controlled, like someone who had already processed what he was about to say. Then he said my husband's name, not like an accusation, like a confirmed fact. Your husband is seeing my wife. I didn't gasp. I didn't cry. I didn't ask him to repeat it. What settled in my stomach was colder than anger. Suspicion is noisy. Confirmation is heavy. David placed a thick envelope on the table between us. He didn't open it. He didn't push it toward me. He just let it sit there, like a truth waiting to be acknowledged. Then he said the sentence that still echoes in my head to this day. If you move first, you lose. I stared at the envelope. My hands were steady, even though my heart was racing. I had imagined this moment 100 different ways. I thought I would confront, collapse, explode. Instead, I sat completely still. David spoke quietly, like he was explaining a rule of physics. Courts don't hear pain, he said. They hear proof. If you act on emotion, you protect the people who lied to you. If you wait, you protect yourself. He told me he'd already learned this lesson the hard way. He had lawyers, documentation, dates, locations, patterns. This wasn't revenge. It was a warning. And I didn't know it yet, but that ordinary cafe was the moment my life stopped spinning and started moving forward with intention. Before everything cracked open, I believed my life was stable, predictable, safe. I had been married to Eric Whitaker for 7 years. He worked in operations for a logistics company. Long hours, yes, but reliable. I worked remotely as a localization specialist, translating documents at our kitchen table while the radio played softly in the background. We weren't flashy people, no surprise trips, no dramatic social media posts. Our marriage was built on routine. Saturday groceries, Friday takeout, movies on the couch where Eric always fell asleep before the ending. Eric wasn't romantic, but he was reliable. Bills paid on time, problems fixed quickly. He rarely raised his voice, never forgot responsibilities. That steadiness felt like security. Looking back, I see how easily I confused quiet with loyalty. There were no obvious warning signs at first, no shouting, no sudden distance I could name, just a peaceful house and a predictable life. My parents liked him, my friends said I was lucky. I believed that the absence of conflict meant the presence of trust. I didn't know yet that sometimes a home is silent because someone has already left emotionally. The changes didn't arrive all at once. They layered themselves into our days quietly until the pattern became impossible to ignore. Eric started coming home later, first 9, then 10, then closer to midnight. He blamed a new contract. I believed him. Then his phone changed. It used to sit face up on the counter. Now it stayed face down or in his pocket. When it buzzed, he checked it quickly and turned away. A new scent appeared in our bathroom, cologne. Eric had never worn cologne in 7 years. He said it was a sample from work. His clothes changed, his haircuts changed. Weekends at the gym appeared out of nowhere. And the worst part, he came home energized, light, happy in a way I hadn't seen in months. At night, I lay awake listening to him breathe and wondered when the shift had happened. I wasn't looking for proof yet. I was looking for reassurance, but my body already knew something my heart was trying to ignore. The moment everything broke happened on an ordinary weekday evening. I was out to dinner with a friend near the Loop. We sat by a window facing the street, traffic lights reflecting against the glass. Then I saw him, Eric, sitting inside a café across the street. Relief hit first, until I saw the woman across from him. Dark hair, wine-colored coat. They leaned toward each other. Eric was smiling, not the tired smile he brought home. This one was relaxed, familiar. Then he reached across the table and took her hand. It wasn't dramatic. It was practiced. I didn't move. My body refused to respond. My friend noticed my face and pulled me away. That night, Eric came home after midnight, calm and casual. I realized something terrifying. A person can lie calmly when the lie has already become routine. I didn't confront him. I made a decision instead. I would not react. I would prepare. From that morning on, I lived a double life. On the outside, I was the same wife. On the inside, I documented everything. Times, excuses, patterns. No accusations, no snooping, just observation. I met with a divorce attorney quietly. He told me the truth I didn't want to hear. Suspicion is not evidence. Then David Reed appeared at my door. 3 days later, he opened the folder. Photographs, dates, locations, proof. When he asked me not to file yet, my first reaction was anger, but he wasn't buying silence. He was buying time, because silence, when chosen, isn't weakness, it's strategy. And waiting doesn't mean accepting betrayal. It means choosing the moment that protects you. Because once you understand that silence can be a weapon, everything changes. When David asked me not to file yet, he didn't pressure me. He didn't repeat himself. He simply closed the folder, stood up, and said, "Think about it. If you decide to wait, call me." Then he left. I sat alone in my living room for a long time after that. The house felt too quiet, but not the peaceful kind of quiet, the kind that presses against your ears, the kind that forces you to hear your own thoughts. Eric came home that night just after 11. He kissed my cheek like always, asked how my day was, tossed his keys into the bowl by the door. Everything looked normal. That was the most unsettling part. I realized then how easy it is for a lie to live inside routine, how deception doesn't need chaos, it needs consistency. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying David's words in my head. If you move first, you lose. By morning, I made my decision. I called him. The next few weeks required a discipline I didn't know I had. Nothing about my behavior changed. I still made coffee in the mornings, still asked Eric if he wanted eggs or toast, still listened as he complained about work meetings that didn't exist. But now everything had a purpose. I started writing things down, not emotionally, not dramatically, just facts. Time Eric left the house, time he returned, which nights he claimed to work late, which weekends he went to the gym. I didn't follow him, I didn't check his phone, I didn't confront him. I let him believe he was safe. That illusion made him careless. David and I established rules, clear ones. No speculation, no assumptions, only what could be proven. If Eric said he was working late, David checked whether his wife, Brooke, left work early that same night. If Eric said he was traveling, David quietly verified hotel bookings and flights, everything obtained legally, cleanly. Patterns began forming, perfect overlaps. I learned something important during that time. People who lie long enough start believing they're invisible. Eric started relaxing around me, his guard lowered. He joked more, He stopped hiding his phone as carefully. He believed I was blind. That was his mistake. One afternoon, while searching for a utility bill, I found something I wasn't supposed to see. A lease agreement. 2 bedrooms, Evanston, Eric's name alone. Dated weeks before he ever mentioned stress or long hours. My hands didn't shake. I took photos, every page. Then I put everything back exactly where I found it. When I told David, he paused for a moment and said, "You did exactly what you were supposed to do." That reassurance mattered more than I expected. The silence stretched on. Weeks turned into months. Eric mentioned a short business trip to Tampa, 3 days, 2 nights. I smiled, told him to travel safe. David confirmed Brooke booked the same dates, hotel, same floor. That was the moment something shifted inside me. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was organizing. When Eric came home from Florida, relaxed and careless, he brought me a small airport gift. I thanked him and placed it on the counter. Inside, I already knew where he'd been, who he'd been with, and how many nights they'd slept under the same roof. A week later, he tested something new. He said the commute was exhausting, that maybe renting a small place closer to work during the week made sense. He watched my face carefully. I nodded and said, "If that helps you, you should do it." That decision cracked the final door wide open. Brooke moved into the same condo. Parking logs showed both cars overnight. Grocery purchases overlapped. Utilities were activated. This wasn't an affair anymore. It was cohabitation, and that matters. David explained it plainly. Living together removes excuses. It turns lies into facts. We chose a Monday morning, 10 a.m., both attorneys ready, both divorce filings submitted within minutes of each other. No warning, no confrontation. By Wednesday, the papers were served. Eric came home that night holding stamped documents, his hands shaking. His voice was loud, frantic. "Why didn't you say anything?" he demanded. I looked at him calmly and said, "Because I was listening." When I told him I had proof, photos, dates, lease agreements, travel records, his words stopped working. When I told him Brooke's husband filed the same day, his face collapsed. That night, the house was silent. Not the quiet of avoidance, the quiet of exposure. The court process was methodical, unemotional, precise. There were no speeches, no shouting, just documents reviewed one by one. Evidence doesn't argue, it simply exists. Excuses fell apart under timestamps. Stories contradicted signed records. The ruling came weeks later. Responsibility was clearly assigned, assets divided accordingly, damages acknowledged, not as punishment, as recognition of harm. Eric moved out quietly. He apologized once. I accepted it, not to reopen anything, but to close it properly. Closure doesn't require reconciliation. When everything was over, the house felt lighter. I repainted the walls, opened the windows, reclaimed my kitchen table. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. Looking back, I wish someone had told me this sooner. Don't confront when you're confused. Confront when you're prepared. Silence isn't weakness when it's intentional. Waiting doesn't mean accepting betrayal. It means choosing the moment that protects you. This wasn't revenge fueled by anger. It was self-respect backed by evidence. After Eric moved out, something unexpected happened. Nothing dramatic. No shouting, no slammed doors, no late-night texts begging for forgiveness. Just silence. But this time, the silence didn't feel threatening. It felt earned. For the first few weeks, I moved through the house slowly, like someone relearning how to live in a familiar space that had quietly betrayed them. I rearranged furniture, cleared closets, took down photos I hadn't looked at in months. Every object I removed felt like reclaiming a small piece of myself. People assume the hardest part of betrayal is discovering the lie. It's not. The hardest part is realizing how much energy you spent protecting someone who never protected you back. Friends started asking questions once the divorce became official. Most of them didn't know what to say. Some wanted details, others wanted drama. I gave them none. Because I learned something through all of this. Not everyone deserves access to your pain. Eric tried reaching out a few times after the settlement. Not directly, through mutual friends, through vague messages that carried no accountability. I didn't respond. Silence doesn't always mean anger. Sometimes it means resolution. David and I spoke once more after everything was finalized. Just a short call. No celebration, no victory lap. Relief doesn't sound loud when you've been through something like this. It sounds steady. He told me he was selling his house, starting over in a new city. Not to run, but to reset. I understood that. I did the same in my own way. I kept my job, expanded my work hours, started saving with intention instead of fear. I reconnected with parts of myself that had gone quiet without me noticing. I learned how to enjoy evenings again, not waiting for someone to come home, not checking the clock, just living. There's a moment people don't talk about after betrayal, when you realize the future is finally yours again. Not shared, not negotiated, not compromised. Yours. Looking back, I don't regret waiting. I don't regret the silence. I don't regret choosing strategy over reaction. Because reacting would have protected Eric and Brooke. Waiting protected me. And that's the part people misunderstand about stories like this. This was never about revenge. Revenge is loud. Revenge is emotional. Revenge burns fast and leaves nothing useful behind. What I chose was clarity. Clarity backed by evidence. Clarity supported by timing. Clarity that didn't require me to lose my dignity to reclaim my life. If you're listening to this and you're in that early stage, the confusion, the quiet doubt, the feeling that something is wrong but you can't prove it, remember this. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You owe yourself protection. Don't confront when you're confused. Confront when you're prepared. And don't mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes silence is the strongest move you can make. Because when the truth finally surfaces, and it always does, you won't just survive it. You'll stand on solid ground when everything else collapses. That's how this ended. Not with shouting, not with revenge, but with peace. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more realistic stories.